So it's that time of the week again, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Kickabout, where myself and O'Hara are welcoming a very special guest. We were just saying that this is episode 7. Normally, the number 7 is associated with special players, past and present. So we did think we'd get a special guest on for episode 7. So please welcome to the pod, former League of Ireland goalkeeper, Jamie Quinn. Jamie, how are you, man?
Good, good. Thanks very much. All good with yourselves?
Yeah, can't complain. Again, another week of the podcast, so we're just delighted to be on and to be able to chat football and everything. We might just get straight into it, Jay. Obviously, you're a ex-goalkeeper. How does one become a goalkeeper, or do you ever set out wanting to be a goalkeeper?
It's probably not saying a strange question, but for myself, it was back to the Kildare County days. I used to, when I was younger, always go back to watch Kildare County, and I'd always be standing behind the goal before the game. I was never really involved with a football team at the time, even at that young age of 11, 12, 13. I'd always be standing behind the goal, and obviously you hear others say to the keeper, "Can I have your gloves? Can I have your jersey?" That sort of thing. And you follow the trend really. And it was just then that I'd be asking for jerseys and gloves, and then I started getting a few pairs of gloves. So then the automatic reaction was you'd come home to the estate the following day, or even in the summer it'd be that night, and you'd be kicking football, and you'd be the one to jump on goal because you'd be happy because you had your gloves, and like you weren't going to get them and not use them. And so that just became a trend. And then as I got older, it just like I like to fancy myself as an outfield player as well. Um, Passing range is exceptional, to be honest, but I just it just kept playing in goal, and then but it was never really that much of an interest for me. And then I do remember I was playing with Newbridge Town underage, and I was never, honest to God, I was never great. Like, so what I would say to any keeper would be just always stick at it, always just work hard. You can get on. There's more nowadays, YouTube and everything. You can learn things for yourself. Always do that, but for me, it was just I remember going down to a second team game with one of my mates with Newbridge Town, and the goalkeeper was a bit mad in the head, and he never showed up, and the lads were doing their shooting. The kick off was say 2 o'clock, and the lads were doing their shooting about 20 to 2, quarter to 2. And next thing, no keeper, and I said I'll jump on goal as a kind of joke. And next thing, I ended up playing in goal. And then it was the following Monday. The club secretary at the time lives up in Cedarwood Park where I live, and he called to my house and said, "Oh, will you go for trials this evening for the Midlands team, which is the Combined Counties League?" And bear in mind, like I didn't think I was great, but obviously they were at the game and wanted me to go, and it was just from there it just all happened like that. That was just one thing after another, just kind of all turning back. And the funny part was I never got my first bit of goalkeeper coaching until I was in my 20s. And now young lads have that. They can. It's easier to access. You have your YouTubes, your different bits and pieces. So, yeah, no, that's how I got going, and that's how I ended up playing in goals. And would I change that? I don't know.
Class. And as well, obviously, Jamie, as you said, you started off with Newbridge Town, so the local team. How was it then? So you played with them for a few years, in your early 20s, and then obviously you made the jump to League of Ireland. What was it like then going from, say Sunday League type thing to more professional one with Athlone and then obviously Shelbourne?
It's a hard one. It's just the setup. The setup's just a lot more professional. And then, like I said, you have a goalkeeper coach as well, which obviously makes a massive difference. I was lucky enough. I was actually at Newbridge Town, and I was playing a friendly game on the main pitch against Bluebell, just pre-season friendly. And there was coaching going on in Newbridge Town by a fella who used to play at Man United, who looks after a team up in Northern Ireland. And I wasn't even number one for Newbridge Town at the time. Like, I'm not saying that wasn't number one, but it was kind of all open. It was, no one knew who was going to be number one into the season. I was probably about 20 at the time. And he seen me play 45 minutes that night in Newbridge Town. So I actually ended up going up north for 6, 7 months first. And then the following year, I came back to Newbridge Town. I was with Newbridge Town for a couple of years and kind of cemented my place. And then the Athlone offer came up. I was actually at the Euros in France when the Athlone offer came up. So to be honest, I didn't know whether it was a piss take or what it was. But then obviously when I went to Athlone, when I was up north, I had that goalkeeper training, and it was just that itch, that enjoyment, that looking forward to going to training, which I never had before. I was actually getting taught things about my game, and I was told how I could improve, what I could do, what not to do, that sort of thing. So when I came back that loan, it was great. Obviously, traveling was a lot less. I wasn't having to stay overnights and sleep up there and that sort of thing. So it was a lot easier. And it then at loan went well for myself. Like, didn't overly, I wouldn't say it went overly well for the team, but it went okay for myself because we played Shelbourne with a couple of games to go in the season, and it was just one of them games where I could have probably laid down on the goal line and the ball would have kept hitting off me and not going over the line. And I remember they had Stephen Elliott up front, and I remember after the game he just shook my hand and he just called me every name under the sun in a joking way, like, and it was just mad to hear that from an ex-Irish international and a Sunderland legend, like, in that sort of thing. So it was mad. And then I knew I was gone. Then it was a day or two after the Shelbourne game, I got contacted by them, so I knew I was gone, and I had a couple of games left for that loan. So it was kind of play it out and play well because I didn't want to make a bollock to that. And then so that led that into going to Shelbourne and playing with Shelbourne for the season. And that setup was even better again, that loan, obviously. Professional, just everything was done for you. You came into training, your training gear was there, everything was like, it was recovery sessions, went in on a match, everything was perfect. Unfortunately, Shelbourne were in a kind of changing period at the time, so finances and that around the club, and not having their own training facility and chopping and changing was a bit of a pain, especially having to travel from Newbridge. But it was just, really, really enjoyable. Yeah, really enjoyable.
I'd say, Jay, just been in that sort of environment on a professional level is just, it's what kids dream of. Again, obviously kids dream of maybe going to the Premier League and playing for a Man United, Liverpool, but I'd say again, just been in that professional environment where you're turning up for training, you're seeing the group of players every day, you're learning on the job, you're developing as a goalkeeper. You did mention just there in when you were at Newbridge Town that there was some weeks where you were kind of unsure whether you'd be starting or you'd be on the bench. How does a goalkeeper, what's the psychology behind a goalkeeper and their kind of the mental side of goalkeeping when you're in and out of the team, you're not sure whether you're going to be starting, you could play a game, have that game like you did against Stephen Elliott, and then the next game all of a sudden you're back on the bench. How does a goalkeeper deal with that in comparison to maybe we'll say like an outfield player, or is there a difference?
Yeah, I think there is a massive difference, like, because if you're not playing as a goalkeeper, you might know the day before the game or whatever if you're at League of Ireland level, or 2 days before the game, which is kind of quite annoying in one way because you haven't to then know you're not playing and still have to try prepare right. You then also go into the game where you're sitting on the bench, and as you have your kind of, let's say, goalkeepers union where you'll always look out for each other as goalkeepers, but realistically you're sitting on the bench hoping he gets injured or sent off that you're getting a game. And and that's not being bad. Obviously you're not hoping for fucking something serious to happen or anything like that, but you're saying you want your chance when you're not playing. And I think the mindset when you're not playing to when you are playing, I think it varies what level you're at. If you're at League of Ireland level where training's still professional, you have a goalkeeper coach, you're getting coached 3-4 times a week, the bubble of players is still good. It does affect you because you're not getting to play in front of that crowd on a Friday night, but you're still getting to experience it, like, and you're still getting to feel that atmosphere, and you still know you're part of it, because you're still having to do a lot of the same things as the other goalkeeper. The only difference is he's playing on a Friday, and there's times like that was me playing and him having to do that for me, so you understand that. But I think at a lower level, if you look in, say, intermediate football, junior football, I wouldn't be able to do it, to be honest, just in the sense of because things aren't as professional, and your game on a Friday or a Sunday is all you look forward to. You just go training, not saying for the sake of going training, but it's not as professional, so you might not have your keeper coach, blah blah blah. So I think it varies what level you're at, and it also varies when you look into money as well. If you're getting a few quid, it's easier to sit on a bench than if you're not getting a few quid.
Yeah, that's fair. And with that as well, Jay, do you know you were saying there, obviously it is quite different mentally between playing outfield and playing actually in the goal. How would you say it is with dealing with mistakes in either position? Obviously, you're far more experienced than keeper, but like obviously you would find it very different to maybe what your teammates would have found it actually outfield.
Yeah, I just think as an outfield player, you can make a mistake and get away with it. It might not be a major issue. Yeah, you miss a chance from 6 yards. It's yeah, you'll get the next one. As a goalkeeper, you make a mistake after 15 minutes, and you've the fat fella behind you who's standing behind your goal, calling you every name that you can possibly think of, and you have to listen to him for 70 minutes. And it's the thought of not being able to turn and say anything to him that is honestly the toughest part. And then the mental aspect of it is it can be incredible. And like I only kind of learned that in my mid-20s. I was lucky enough to have another keeper with me at Shells that had played in England. He was at the end stage in Dean Delaney. He played in England. He was at the end stage of his career. He won whatever he had to win. He's played Europa League, Champions League football. And what I learned off him in the mindset of football was phenomenal. I used to be the one that I beat myself up for making a bad pass, or beat me, and he just he got it into me that yeah, you made a bad pass, but your next one's going to be better. Or you came for that cross and you flapped at it, but you're still coming for the next one. And it was incredible. But it's I do think the mental strain on it for goalkeepers is a lot more than it is for outfield players. And obviously people will think, yeah, he's going to say that as a goalkeeper, but I just think like I make a mistake, it's a goal. If you're playing up top or right wing, you shank across, it's a goal kick. You miss a chance, it's a goal kick. I make a mistake, we're 1-0 down, we've lost the game, and I've been there. So it's not nice. It's such a lonely place.
Yeah, and again, kind of that comes back to the psychology behind it, and I think like we were chatting kind of off air saying, and we all agreed that if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, we'll say if a shot comes at the goalkeeper, the keeper lets it go underneath them, that ball had to have travelled from the far end of the pitch past 10 other players to get to the goalkeeper. But I think us as fans, and I'm sure Dave or Hara would hold his hands up as well, saying that football fans that have never played in goals are very harsh to criticise goalkeepers, and they don't really understand what it is like to be a goalkeeper. And I suppose, like you mentioned, that the fat guy behind the goal, and especially in the League of Ireland, where the grounds are so tight, compact, you're literally, as a fan, you're pretty much on the pitch. So like, did you come up with any kind of strategies of how to kind of block that out? Or because I've been at League of Ireland games as well. I was at Pat's. I brought a friend from Germany over, and we said we go to Pat Stadium in behind the goals, and there was this family of Pat's fans, and they were just throwing absolute dog's abuse at the Bows goalkeeper behind the goal, calling him every name under the sun. And I was just thinking, fair play to the keeper. Well, it looks like from my perspective that he's blocking it all out. He just turns around and smiles and grins at the fans giving him abuse. Did you come up with any strategies to deal with supporters shouting abuse at you, or if you had made a mistake, what you do to kind of bounce back and kind of move on from it?
Yeah, in regards to like people shouting things and that, yeah, I kind of came up with obviously it's easy to say just to focus on what's in front of me, but you can actually, by just smiling, by just smiling about the situation and kind of going, you're doing something right if he's shouting at you. Like, you've done something because he's shouting at you who's on the pitch. So you've done something right to get on the pitch. So that would always be my kind of. And once I got that into my head, it was like looking at a game, a different aspect of a game, and you'd nearly not even, you'd still see the same fella, but you wouldn't hear him, and it's totally different. And then in regards to, say, making a mistake and an error, like I was saying, I just tried to focus on the next one, because you can't affect what's already happened, but the biggest thing you can affect is what's going to happen next. So it's about moving on to that and not making 2 errors instead of making 1, because you can't get that error back. As much as you want to get it back and you want that shot to come in again, it'll be a different shot next time. So you got to just move on to the next one's the most important.
Yeah, exactly. Just thinking as well, Jamie, like, say, obviously, in modern football, there's all, keepers playing out from the back, and that seems to be the way things are going with, say, the likes of Alison at Liverpool and Edison with City. But obviously going back 10, 20 years, it was very different. How did you find it with the different clubs? Like, did you ever, say, for example, were you ever with a goalkeeper coach who, specifically wanted you to play more out from the back, or have a different style or anything like that?
I'm lucky enough in the sense of I'm comfortable with it. I don't mind playing. I can get it down. I can play. That's not an issue. But what frustrates me is you're at some clubs and they get this thing of they want to play that way, but they're not good enough to play that way. And they might be good enough to play other ways, but they're not necessarily good enough to play that way. It's like the game that's on TV now, Burnley and Leicester. Contrast, total contrast. If you ask Burnley to play the way Leicester do, and you ask Leicester to play the way Burnley do, both sides would really struggle.
Yeah.
It's about, for me, that's the biggest frustration sometimes as being a goalkeeper. If you have a team that can play, which I've been in a couple of teams that can play, yeah, get it down and play. But you also got to, if you can't play, if you don't have that, you got to be open and go, right, we don't have that, but we have something else that other teams don't have. It's about adapting as well, in the sense of, if there's a player, you might have 3 players unavailable this week, so you might have to change up the way you play a small bit. You might not be able to play. You might be, so my thing on it would be your players determine what way you play.
Just kind of touch on Dave's point there about kind of playing out from the back, and there's such a huge emphasis on it that nowadays in the Premier League, you see the goalkeeper put the ball down and play that 5-yard pass, with the rules obviously now changed. You can play the 5-yard pass within the box. Personally, I just kind of see it as a bit of a waste, because you for example, David De Gea plays it to Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire turns around and boots it up the pitch. What's the point in that? You put pressure on yourself.
Yeah, for me, sometimes I think it's a lot of bollocks, to be honest, because the goalkeeper is playing an unopposed dead ball from the 6-yard, where no one can pressure him. It's a dead ball, no one can pressure him. He can do whatever he wants with it. And this is in a team now. Say you said Harry Maguire. It's okay for Man City, because their whole team is built in a way that they can play football and play through the lines and play through the different thirds. That's different. But with the likes of, say, the example you gave, Man United, De Gea is rolling to Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire is then under pressure, having to try play. Then, because he's under pressure, he's kicking at 70 yards. And then because he kicks at 70 yards, he's having to sprint 30 yards up the pitch. I don't get it. And it's one of them ones, like, if my manager asked me to do it, I'd probably be on the bench the following week.
Great. Just as well, Jamie, I'll just talk a bit about the League of Ireland kind of currently. How do you feel, obviously having been in it for a couple of years, how do you feel the standard is of it now, of the league now at the moment?
It seems to be getting better. Like there's a lot of players coming across from, like if you look at this year, a lot of players coming on loan from England, and there's younger players coming through, and just it seems to be it's a lot more professional, and it's probably a lot more competitive than it was a couple of years ago. And the likes of Dundalk signed a good few foreign players, and Rovers putting a really good team together, and yeah, I think the standards probably it dipped for a couple of years, compared to the great teams that were there, your great Bows, your great Shells, Glenn Crows, Jason Burns, all them. And it did dip, but I think now it's starting to kind of pick up. It's starting to pick up a bit. Like
It's strange the way it goes. At least what I've noticed anyway from the last couple of years. It's strange how, like you were saying, back however many years, there was a consistently dominant team for 4 or 5 years at least, and then it eventually phased out into a different team. I find it really strange, like the last few years, how like, say for example, like a couple of years ago, it was Dundalk and Cork absolutely battling out, and then like Cork have basically fallen off the edge of a cliff, and then like say Bows were nothing 4 or 5 years ago, and now they're massive and challenging again.
it's just I think, sorry to cut across you there.
No, you're
I think a lot of it's down to money, to be honest. A lot of it definitely is down to money. Like you look at, say, this year, for example, Bows are able to sign players like Bastian Healy from Linfield, who was on a serious wallet up there, and they're able to sign him because they're getting players across the water. They, like, even if the players are going on free transfers, people look and go, "Oh, that player's gone to the young lad Grant who's gone to Huddersfield for free." They look at it and say it's free, but it's really not. Bo's got a couple of $100,000 off that because the compensation of him playing. Mandrew gone to Rovers, people say that's free, but Bo's got a couple of quid off it because he's under the age of the compensation rule. So, and then you look at teams set their expectations. Cork, say for example, won the league, doing really well. They said, "Oh, we want to get into the group stages." They didn't get into the group stages, and they blew their fund by paying to try going right. The minimum we're going to do this year is Europa League, and then when it didn't happen, sure, they can't pay the players the year after. And unfortunately, in these clubs, a lot of these clubs, there's no sugar daddy for a long period of time who's going to keep pumping money in and keep them maintaining. I think that's why it's going to be so interesting with Dundalk and Rovers now, because Dundalk obviously have good money, and you can't see Rovers fucking sitting back and not wanting to spend it. Like, so it's going to be great. But I always love seeing the kind of the smaller clubs do well. Like the story of Dundalk is great. Like, but I'd love to see someone else, like a smaller club, like come up and do well now. Like,
I think people do kind of forget, we'll say, that the story behind Dundalk, and just kind of see them over the last couple of years of being so successful, and not kind of all the hard work that's been put into it. I don't know if you follow the Brazilian league, but pretty much the way that it kind of reminds me of the League of Ireland in a sense that there's a team, we'll say Corinthians, doing really, really well, win the league, and all of a sudden, whatever happens with the financial side of the club, next thing they're getting rid of their players, obviously, to Europe, can't kind of sign any new players. And it seems to be this kind of merry-go-round of a different team every year winning in Brazil, which makes the Brazilian league exciting. Would you like to see something like that in League of Ireland, where it's one season it's Rovers, then next season it's Dundalk, then you throw in a Drogheda in there in the middle of it? I know kind of back in the early noughties it was a little bit like that. But would you like to see that again, or would you like to see, like O'Hara mentioned, a Cork and Dundalk battling now for 3-4 consecutive seasons?
no, I'd honestly love to. The more teams battling for it, the merrier. But when you look at like the difference between, say, the budget and the finances at your top team, let's say in the League of Ireland last year, and your bottom team in the League of Ireland First Division, like chalk and cheese, like that's why it's, if you look at the cups, right? Yeah, some teams have cup runs to get favourable draws, but you never really see a First Division lower half team going out and actually get into a cup semi-final, cup final, because the gap between them is phenomenal. Like, I know poor Athlone last year, they went out and played Dundalk that night. Like the 18 Dundalk players could have been arrested after that game for what they done on that pitch to the poor young lads with Athlone. Like, it was that bad. Like, but the gap is massive, and I'd love to see it not be massive. I think it would bring a lot more fans to the league. And if the gap wasn't that, whether that's a thing that they do, like what's done in League One and League Two in England, when you have your salary cap and blah blah blah. But look, at the end of the day, it's Ireland, so if you have a salary cap, you'll just get paid under the table anyway, so it won't be an issue.
Yeah, that seems to be the way. With that as well, like obviously, say I'm up in Dublin, and have been the last couple of years. So, like, say I knew a few lads who like are season ticket holders with Bows. So obviously they'd be going to every match every other week. But like obviously having chatted to them and seeing how it's gone the last year or two, there seems to be a lot more demand for tickets. Say obviously with Bows because they're doing well, but the league as a whole, what do you think? What do you think needs to be done, or have you any ideas of what would need to be done just across the board to get more Irish people interested in the league world and actually going to matches?
It's one of them things that where Irish and all Irish are interested in is winning. So Irish will go to plenty of games if their team is winning. They wanted a manager who would attempt to play football with the national team for so long, and that goes back to what we spoke about earlier on, and not having the players to play a certain way, but doing okay in the way we were playing. But they wanted a manager who get it down, try play, keeper roll it out. The keeper that can't do it, roll it out to a centre half who can't play football, and do it that way, and then they'll stop going to games. I think that's what it's like with the League of Ireland as well. It's if it was more competitive, more people would go to games, because you'd have people from your 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th in the top Premier Division going to games. As now at the minute, well, you're going to have Rovers when they play Pats, it'll be a sellout. Rovers when they play Bows, it'll be a sellout, and that sort of thing. Because teams in the bottom half will beat teams in the top half, but I just think it's not as competitive as it probably could be. Like, it's not like the Premier League, like, where I know it's different, but the scale of wages is a lot higher, but it's the same in the sense that your lower teams are getting A figure and your top teams are getting B figure. The difference is the same, but just on a higher number. But yet you could get 15 players go out and be 5th place, because I find it's just a lot more competitive than it would be.
Yeah, and like obviously as football fans, we'd all love to see the League of Ireland grow. And I know last season before, the hashtag was going around the best league in the world. But honestly, like, the standard has improved. There's more quality players coming to the league. Again, that might be detrimental to some of the younger players and getting the opportunity to actually make the step up within their clubs, when we see some players coming over on loan from English clubs. What do you think League of Ireland teams, or did you experience it when you were part of Athlone and Shells, what clubs were doing to promote the younger players or players from the underage squads or the academies? Was there a structure in place, or is that something that you think needs to be worked on in the League of Ireland?
Well, I can only speak from like the experience of the clubs I was in, obviously, and at Shelbourne it was atrocious. Like, genuinely, like, there was the young lad, like, there was young lads there that actually went on to sign for other teams because they were classed as being too young at Shelbourne. Went on to sign for other League of Ireland teams, and one or two of them are actually in England now. And then Athlone was a very young based team anyway. I was quite young myself at Athlone, but I was still one of the older players, one of the more experienced players, even at a young age. So it was different. Athlone did try to push the players through, but if you look at Athlone now, that hasn't worked for Athlone. So now they're going back to what they were doing beforehand. They've got someone to throw a few quid in, and all right, can we try get a decent team on the pitch? So it's it's about trying to persist and trying to manage expectations, and that's what I think. That's why I think it's actually quite difficult for a League of Ireland club, because they want to bring, well, some of them anyway, want to bring the young players in and give them a chance and have them playing, but results might not be great because of that, because these young lads have to learn, and you can't just go to a young lad, there's a load of experience, now go out play football. He has to get that experience. So with the fans and the clubs, they all want to win, and they want to win now. So I think that's why sometimes bringing in young players can be neglected, when I think they should be trusted more. But obviously that's down to the club. You could put me in, I've been managing obviously top Leinster Senior League, and you could put me in the situation of that. If I'm told I have to get results, I'm going to pick my most reliable players. If I'm told, oh, you have a couple of years there, you can develop, I'm going to develop.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to your League of Ireland days, so Jay, what would you say, if you could pick off the top of your head, what would you say was one of your favourite away grounds to go visit as a player? And say as well, kind of tying into that, what were the standards like generally going away to different stadiums?
Best one I played in was we played away at the Bows in the Leinster Senior Cup. We actually went on to win the Leinster Senior Cup, but I got man of the match away at the Bows in the Leinster Senior Cup, and it was just phenomenal. Like having their whole crowd there, and there wasn't many shells there, but like having Bows, because obviously Bows shells, like the place is fucking. It's a cup game on a Tuesday night, really sunny, like, and it was just. That was probably my best experience. Another funny one, I used to love going down to Cove. I don't know why, like little old Cove in the first division, like, and I loved going down to Cove because it was your non-league in England football ground. Like, you went down, and I don't mean to keep talking about the fat fella behind the goal, but you could smell his curry chip, and it was just a proper, like, it was a proper. They were all behind their team, like they didn't know any chance or anything like that, but they were just shouting. And it, just honest to God, Cove and Cove's a mad one. Like, if someone said to me, "We'll go and play for Cove and next transfer window," I'd probably get myself fit to go down there and play. Because it's just obviously there's no fans in the minute, so I wouldn't be wasting my time driving down there. But it's just like, no, the Bows, obviously for that reason, having a trophy in the spare room of getting man in the match, that'll always be a memory. Like, with such a, when you're getting abuse, is even better. But yeah, Cove as well, just for the way it is, like the little wall around it, and the walls right in the pitch, and it's in the middle of housing estates, and you've young fellas throwing stones at you when you're coming in, and yeah, it's yeah, that they're the kind of ones for me, and that probably have the best two grounds that have the memories for me.
That's like proper away days. Proper away days
Oh,
right there. Just the we might get you to kind of come back on just the standards of League of Ireland grounds, and again, you obviously described Cove compared to kind of League One, League Two over in England.
definitely not League One or League Two. I said non-league football.
Non-league.
Non-league One or League Two. Not a hope in hell.
Yeah, touch on a bit of the standards, because again, we like as football fans, we just say, yeah, you jump on a bus, you're the red carpet's rolled out for you when you arrive at ground, you're fed after a game, you're looked after. Do the showers even work?
The funny part is, right, I'll take Dundalk for example, right? We played Dundalk in the Leinster Senior Cup final, and you go into the Dundalk shower, and like, you're wearing your flip flops into the shower because the tiles on the floor are cracked, the dressing room's in bits, the toilet's horrendous. You're nearly washing your hands in the toilet because the sink's even worse. Like, it's just, and that, but yet that was the team that was. So they had to get porta cabins in for their European games for the away side to get changed in. Like, but yet it was deemed okay for League of Ireland sides to go play there. Then you have, like, you play your game, and like sometimes you're not getting meals after your game. Like you're having to bring your or you're eating a pasta out of a lunchbox. Like you're getting, obviously you might get your pre-match meals. The League of Ireland, because in the first division anyway, because some lads might work till a certain time, it's an extra inconvenience to have to get a pre-match meal. Because if you're coming from Dublin down to say Waterford, and the bus needs to be in Waterford for 6:15, you're probably leaving at 4 o'clock. But if you're to get a pre-match meal, you're leaving at 2 o'clock. So that 2 o'clock, that extra 2 hours is massive to a lad in work, because that extra 2 hours is worth good money, that sort of way. So, yeah, it's far from. Look, in my opinion, it's a young man's game, the League of Ireland, or it's for experienced heads that, not saying have their own hours, but their hours of work suit themselves. Like, that type of way where they can take an hour here, take an hour there. That's what it's for. It's not for a fella who is trying to have a career in life. I mean, I don't mean in football. It's good for the first, once you hit 25, 26, you probably look at it a bit differently. As when you're 22, 23, you're living the dream. And then you get to that age where, say myself, for example, I was working 5 days a week. I was having to take a half day on a Friday and then try work a Saturday to make up for it. But sometimes we'd be training Saturday morning, so you're using a holiday day, and it's like, it's relentless. Like, it's totally relentless. It really is.
And what about as well, Jay? Just sticking with kind of back in your League of Ireland days, like with that, thinking of like kind of your favorite memories. Do you have it, like you were saying there, where you got the man of the match in the Bows game? Do you have any particular most memorable save or most memorable just moment of you playing really well?
I'm not trying to be funny or cliche here, but I like to look at every save as being my most memorable save, because if you don't make it, you get abused and you get a hard time. And I've sat on a bus on the way home from a game where conversation is going on around you, but it's not going on with you. Because of an error you might have made in the game, or blah blah blah. And no matter what, obviously that's not the whole team, like, but it's always, there'll always be individuals in the team. So, like there's a few that night against Bowls, or I remember making a save from a free kick against Longford Town, where I don't know how I saved it. Made a save against Cove that pulled it out from nearly behind the lot. Like that's you look, you do remember them, but I'm proud of I'm proud of a lot of saves, because I wouldn't have been able to do them when I was younger, and it was like, I'm proud of being able to get myself to the level of being able to do it, to be honest. Like,
I absolutely love that answer. I love that kind of attitude to being delighted, because at the end of the day, striker scores a goal, they're delighted every time they score a goal, bar your Mario Balotelli, who doesn't celebrate. But like, I just love hearing that from you, that every save meant something to you. Where again, from a just a fan's perspective, you're like, that's just your bread and butter, or that's just, they should be well able to do that, or this, that, and the other. But you don't take in the environment there and then on the day, the wind, the ball, the movement of the ball. So it's great to hear that you're proud of pretty much every save you make, because you worked for that. Did you ever kind of have a little celebration when you pulled off a good save, or?
I'm sure I'm sure I did, yeah, with the fat fella behind the goal. It was, but no, yeah, there's all, no. Do you know what it is as a keeper? You actually don't celebrate. You make a save and it goes out for a corner, and you just scream at your defender. That's your celebration as a keeper. You don't give it the fist pump or that. You just straight onto your defender, telling him much of a wanker he is straight away. That's when you know as a keeper you've made a good save. So next time you're watching the game on TV, right? What, honestly, guys, if you're watching whatever games are on tonight, watch the keeper when he makes a save, or if he saves a penalty.
I was just going to say, it happens most time when they save a penalty, doesn't it? And the players come rushing in, being like, "Oh, unreal!" And they're like, "Oh, fuck off, get out!"
Yeah, that's totally it. Like,
Speaking
Brilliant.
speaking of that, I have a really good memory of do you remember when Peter Schmeichel saved the Bergkamp penalty FA Cup semi-final
Oh,
last
yeah,
minute, and I think it
yeah.
was David Beckham ran in and started hugging him, and Schmeichel literally like threw him off and goes like, "Get up the pitch, keep going, keep going." Like he was having none of it, and he was like pushing all the lads away. Um, but Schmeichel's a great example because I think a lot of goalkeepers maybe it was happened beforehand, but I think as a United fan and obviously growing up, that's where I witnessed the goalkeeper shouting at the defenders after a shot went in or the keeper saved it, pushed out for a corner. Has that always been there, Jay, or do you even think
Um,
it's maybe dying off in the game, or with the modern day keeper?
I don't know. For me, it's probably always been there because the way I look at it is like you don't need to practice talking. Like you should be able to talk to your defender. You can see the whole pitch in front of you, and you want them out. The way I look at it personally is, if I'm in goal, obviously I want to play well. I play well by having less to do. Like anyone does, any keeper, the less they have to do, the better they look, because then they might only have two saves to make, and then the percentage of making two saves is a lot, and saving them is a lot higher than if you have 10 saves to make. So I'd always look at it as, I don't get why people don't talk on a football pitch, especially a goalkeeper or centre halves or even kids I coach. I'll always make them talk because it comes free. It's not like they're having to go home practice it. It's not like they're having to learn it for years. It's just talking, just basic things. And but like you said, I see some keepers, like, well, looks, it's hard sometimes when you're at telly, when you're looking at it on telly, or when you're at a match in England, let's say, it's hard to see or hear whether the keepers are talking. So it's hard to say, oh, they don't talk or they do talk. But personally, myself, I'd be a massive talker. Like I would. I'd be a massive information giver to the team. Like, whether it's right or wrong sometimes or whatever, but I try always give the best information I can give, and if you can help someone out, perfect. But at the end of the day, it's about making your job easier and making the team better.
That's the thing with it, isn't it? Like I think that's definitely a massive thing, a really important part of being a keeper, because you're the person who can see the whole pitch in front of you.
Yeah.
So it's such a big help to, like, say for example, like the centre backs in front of you. Like, if you have an inexperienced centre back, like, the help that gives him by having a talker and someone actually coaching him through the game almost, is massive, and it will obviously help his confidence as well if he's only
Yeah.
a young lad coming up through the team and stuff like that.
Sorry to cut across you there, Dave, but I've played the players at a couple of different levels that have actually said to me before the game, make sure you keep talking to me today. And like, I might come across as being a confident lad. I wouldn't be overly confident, but I find by talking, it makes me focus. Like, by talking through my game, it makes me focus on my game. And it was, it's quite funny to hear that, like, people come over and say, "Oh, just like talk to you." I was playing a PFAI game a couple of years ago, um, after what was it? Was it before I went to Athlone or after, whatever it was? Anyway, I think it was between the two seasons. But that's for the out of contract professionals in Ireland. I was playing that, and a player that I didn't even know, like, I spoke to him briefly in the warm up because I was off with Gary Rogers doing my own bit and came back in for the game, and going on to the pitch, goes, "Make sure you talk me through it today." I'm gonna go, like, it's crazy. Like, I don't understand why people just don't do it a lot more, look out for each other a lot more often.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Because it seems to be kind of a confidence thing like that. If you had a quiet keeper behind you, they're going to feel a bit more unsure of themselves and less kind of, demanding as the centre back. But
Yeah.
obviously that helps them with their decision making. So, like, say, as a goalkeeper, what would you find are the best ways of, like, say, actually improving your decision making over the years?
Just committing to something and making the decision early and sticking with the decision. So, like, say if you're coming for a cross and you're going to call keepers, don't call keepers when you're catching the cross. Call keepers when you're leaving your line, because the mental aspect comes in then of the second you've called keepers, you've taken the responsibility. So it's then on you to come and take the ball. As if you're waiting and you're kind of jogging towards to catch the ball and you're calling keepers as you're catching it, you haven't actually taken responsibility yet. And it just that for me, like, that's massive. Like I said, massive talker. So I'd look a lot into that. Yeah, and that really helps me out and helps me get through my games by talking, because if I'm just standing there like a statue for 90 minutes and then I'm having to move and then I'm having to save and then I'm having to come off my line and I find it near on impossible.
To touch on O'Hara's point about decision making, you sometimes see in Premier League and in League of Ireland, goalkeepers maybe getting bet at their near post, or when you're kind of, we'll say, as a goalkeeper, you're obviously the attacking team are coming towards you and you're trying to work your feet, but also trying to track back and know where your two posts are behind you, know what angles you're at. How do you make all those decisions in a game? I know maybe you'll touch on practice, but sometimes in a game, can it just kind of leave your mind where exactly you were situated in the box?
Um, it's a weird. I'll start with the whole near post thing. I hate when someone says that on telly, because like they genuinely like don't know. The worst is when the shot's quite centrally in the goal, but like say off the middle of the goal, off the penalty spot, 6 yards on the side, and it goes in that side, and you hear the commentator go, "You got better as near post." Like, they don't understand you're having to cover so many angles that get like that's not an issue. Like, if he's standing on the end line, he beats at your near post, right? Okay, but I never understand when someone says about on TV, like when you hear it, people are never. I know it's probably hard because it's the easy thing to say, especially it's a trend, like, and it's a trend when you hear someone say, "Oh, I got better as near post." It's easy to jump on that bandwagon, and it's going on for years, like, so it'll probably never stop. But there, it's I don't understand it, like, 'cause there's just as much chance of getting bet there as just across you. Like, it's the same concept, really. And then with the likes of that, knowing where you are in the goal and knowing your position, a lot of it comes from training. Like, a lot of it comes from kind of working around your 6 yard box and training. So you might start different movements where you're turning into the goal from different angles, like to replicate a game. So you're in different positions, you're dropping off, you're taking shots, you're dropping off, you're taking angle shots. Like, so it comes, like, even though, say, I haven't played a competitive game in a good while now, I don't think things might be rusty, but the likes of angle, it just sticks with you because that goal is always there. 6 yard box is always there. All you have to do is have a little look at the D at the edge of the box at the penalty spot, and you know where you are. Well, I'm not saying everyone, but as a keeper, you might get caught out once out of five. You give a little glance, you see, oh, there's me D. Oh, I know where I am. Or if he's coming in from the angle, you give it you're I'm one shot. You give it a glance, you know, oh, there's me 6 yard box. You know where you are. So that'd be the kind of, just, it's repetition. That side of it is repetition.
Yeah, class. So if we were going to say, obviously you've been a keeper since your early 20s, or, obviously younger than that as well. And like, say, obviously in media, there's obviously the quote from like the likes of Carragher being like, "Oh, well, no one grows up to be a Gary Neville." So there's always talk of, like, when you're growing up and you're playing five-a-side or you're playing for your team.
Go on, try to say it. Go on, say it.
You're always the one, you're always the one who wants to score the goals rather than be the one trying to keep it out. So, like, say,
why are you saying the fat kid's meant to be the keeper?
Like, not every time, like, but like, but if you had someone, a young lad, come up to you and he's thinking of maybe being a keeper, what advice would you give someone who's looking to be a keeper starting off?
Number one, work hard, because that was it for me. Like, and I still do. Like, I'm only 28. Like, I stepped away from playing football for my own reasons. which I was happy enough with. Like I needed to make them decisions, so I'm happy enough. I'm 28. I probably have another. Honest to God, I'm I'm quite like young, so I probably have another 10 years left if I wanted. Obviously, whatever level that is, I honestly, once I'm happy and I'm enjoying playing, I don't mind. But what I give to a young keeper, I coach a young lad at the minute. He's very, very good. He's playing at a League of Ireland underage side, and I always say to him, work hard and focus. If he makes a mistake, focus on your next thing. Focus on what you're going to do next. So by that, obviously you're focusing on the save you're going to make now or the cross you're going to come collect now. But don't dwell on it if it doesn't go well. So if you're a young keeper and you're 12 years of age and you jump in goal and your dad is kicking balls at you or your uncle or whatever is kicking balls at you, don't just do your best and just try save as many as you can, because the technical side will come into it after a couple of years. But I don't believe in, obviously show the young lad how to catch the ball right, how to dive right, Grant. But I don't believe in over coaching 11, 12, 13-year-olds. Let them try make as many saves as they can. Let them try play as much on the ground as they can. Let them express themselves. And that's what I get. And like I said, just hard work. Get onto YouTube, watch other keepers, try to learn, right, what's Manuel Neuer doing, that sort of way. What's David De Gea doing? Well, I won't copy that at the minute because he's poor, and then just keep learning like that.
Yeah, no, they're great advice and great tips, obviously, for, as O'Hara said, if anyone's hoping to become a goalkeeper one day. But kind of a little story on that. I was coaching over in America to 2014 World Cup, and I think it was the World Cup where Tim Howard and a lot of goalkeepers actually pulled off quite good saves and had good performances. It was like the day after America would play, Tim Howard would play for America. The kids the next day in the camp, you couldn't get any of them out of the goal. They all just wanted to be in goals, and I'd never experienced anything like that before. And it just shows the power of a good performance by a goalkeeper over, whether it's a game or a couple of games, and the whole country, the whole world are watching. What an impact that could be. And obviously I have no idea how many of those kids went on to be goalkeepers, but I swear there was, out of the 20 I had in my group, 18 of them wanted to be in goals for the rest of the week, which is great, and it shows the impact that goalkeepers can have on players that, and not that this might be stereotyping, but mightn't feel that they're good enough to be outfield players, but they might have, I don't know, the skills and the ability to become really, really good goalkeepers.
Just with their I'd say with them 18 kids, I'd say none of them ended up being goalkeepers because you've just told them they're not good enough to be outfield players and they're going to get better than near post.
Do you know what? It's actually great. It's great that we can try things like getting better than near post and get a and get a true reflection of how a goalkeeper feels. Because again,
I'll text you at about 1 o'clock tonight when I can't sleep over that.
Oh, love it, Jay. Love it. Just on international goalkeepers, there we might jump on to. We'll put you in the shoes of Stephen Kenny for the upcoming fixtures next month. Would you stick with Randolph or would you just go with Keevan Kelleher?
I'd stick with Randolph for the sense of consistency. He's done nothing to reward being dropped. He's gone to probably being number 2 at West Ham. He's played a couple of games lately, but Keevan Kelleher is not playing any more than him. And I know as a keeper, it's very easy to, when Keevan Kelleher got his couple of games for Liverpool, that's a piece of piss. It's the consistency. I'm not saying that's a piece of piss, but I mean in the sense of it's the level of consistency over a number of games. It's easy to play 4, 5, 6 games at any level. Then the adrenaline wears off. Then the bubble bursts, and it's what you can do then from your 10th game to your 30th game. That's when I like to judge a keeper. Like the young lad at Leeds there, when people were saying when he came into the Premier League, oh, he can't this, he can't that. Looking at him over the course of the season, he's only 21. He's made a couple of mistakes, but he's been brilliant. And if you look at Keevan Kelleher, my thing, he needs to play football. Like if you look at young Gavin Bazunu, he's playing with, who is it, Oldham or something like that, or Rochdale. He's playing games every week. He'll probably be better developed in the sense of playing games by the end of this season than Queevy and Keller will be. We had Queevy and Keller's about 4 years older than him. But Randolph consistently, yeah, I wouldn't leave him out. He hasn't done anything. Some of the things he's done, like some of the saves he's made for Ireland, like when he's had some absolute cabbages playing in front of him, is phenomenal. Like different saves. So yeah, no, I'd be leaning towards Randolph. Yeah.
And what about as well, Jay? Say if you were looking at it from the England perspective, they obviously have a bit of a debate on with their keepers as well. Like Pickford seems to be Southgate's chosen one for however long, who, in my opinion, like the likes of Pope especially, but like say Dean Henderson coming through at United, like say a lot of people I'd be chatting to would think like, how is Pope not the England keeper? What would you think about that?
Yeah, for me, Pope is not the England keeper because he's not good with the ball at his feet. That's probably the only thing. If Pope was good with the ball at his feet, it goes back to saying, and people might say, oh, well, if you don't want your best shot stopper in goal, like, because he'll make more saves. But it's a bit, because of the way England are trying to play, they want the keeper who can pass the ball. They want the keeper who can play quick distribution. They want the keeper. But Pope can't do that. But if you said the two of them are Irish and said to me Pickford or Pope, I'm gonna say Pope. If you said to me the two of them are English and you say Pickford or Pope, I'm gonna say Pickford.
Yeah, in fairness, you have the likes of like Burnley are used to being the team who have 30% possession of the game and are sitting back the whole time, where it's entirely
and to be fair, Henderson isn't playing and he's not overly great with his feet either. And that's the thing. It comes down to teams. Like it comes down to teams at the end of the day. Like on what style the team are trying to implement. If the team are trying to implement a passing style, which Southgate does with his three at the back, he likes the keeper to get on it and try play and be an extra player to become a second centre back. I think Pickford's the only one who can do that. But yeah, don't get me wrong, Pickford, Jesus, he can worry me under crosses sometimes, things like that. But regarding the way you want, England will be probably a worse team if he's not playing because they can't start their attacks.
Yeah. As a Liverpool fan, do you hate Pickford?
Me? Oh yeah, 100%. I'd rather not say anything about him. Oh, sure, Jay, you're a Liverpool fan,
Jay, do you hate him or do you kind of not jumping on that bandwagon just because you're the goalkeeper, you're a goalkeeper, you have that connection with him, or just as a Liverpool fan, you're like, yeah, I hate him? For his tackle on Virgil, obviously.
There was probably no need for it. Yeah, it wasn't the. That's a fine, by the way, for the phone. It wasn't. The tackle probably didn't need to happen, and I think it was just he got caught up in the heat of the game. It was wrong what he done. Like it was wrong, but regards to I hate him, I don't really hate anyone, to be honest. It's football, part of football. It could have been someone else. If that was Dejan Lovren last year, Liverpool fans were saying, "Oh, brilliant! He's out for the season now."
Yeah, there's double standards with a lot of those things, isn't there? Like
Sorry?
that.
Yeah.
Like even with like, say for example, like the likes of Salah and Mane, like they're both big Muslims, so like they have like Liverpool have altered their pre-match thing, so they have an extra couple of minutes so that they can do have their time for their prayers and stuff, and like they have separate things for like if they're on away days to do with like if the lads need to be fasting, but like that they'll obviously make exceptions for those kind of players where if you had a young player or just a player who's just entirely not playing well, a lot of the time they don't seem to be as lenient with things like that.
Yeah, it's just the things like it's like squad numbers and all. Like you go to like that's where like was weird for me. Like you go around, it's like, what number do you want? And you're there going, what? Like as a young player, you just don't. It's just new. It's so new to you, and it's like that. Like they've done it, but like that's normal for them experienced players to get that treatment all the time. And like what you said there, them experienced lads are getting it, but the young lad coming in from the underage or whatever, he's not getting asked that question, look, or he's not getting that treatment. Look.
You obviously mentioned about Pickford, and we're obviously talking about Premier League goalkeepers. You mentioned Pickford. If he was in an England side, he's good with his feet, or he's at least better than Nick Pope. Would you describe David De Gea as a goalkeeper who's good with his feet, or would you say that's probably obviously not his best attribute as a goalkeeper? And would you look at David De Gea from a goalkeeper perspective and say he's past his best? If so, why? But if not, why do you still think he's a good quality goalkeeper?
Yeah, start with the first bit, obviously. Regarding him being good with the ball at his feet, I actually think he is quite good at the ball at his feet. Because the way he's brought up, Spanish, they have to be good at the ball at their feet. It actually goes back to the team he's playing in again. If you look at David De Gea, say when Spain were doing quite well and he was number one, and you watch him in games, his starting position on the pitch is so much higher. The passes he has to give out are so much higher. What he has to do with the ball is so much more. So he's then a footballing goalkeeper. If you look at him at Man United, he's a back four in front of him of Wan-Bissaka, who's not great in the ball, just loves tackling people. Harry Maguire, you'll just give it to him and he can kick it long. You'll have Lindelof or Bali beside him. They're not ball playing defenders. And Luke Shaw at left back as well. He's better going forward. So, and then you play into midfield. He's playing it into matches in front of the back four. So that it comes with the ability to play with the ball at his feet. I really think it comes down to the team he's in. That sometimes at Man United he will try play when he doesn't have the players to play with. And then down to, do I think he's deteriorated as a goalkeeper? No, I don't. But I think his time at Man United is probably up in the sense of just need something fresh. Because when you've been there for that long and that type of thing, sometimes you need something fresh, especially when you're away from home. Like you're living, I can only imagine from us being on holidays and stuff in Spain, and herself being from Spain, the heat, and then you're having to play, like, he's at that age where he probably wants to go home to his family and play in his home country and that type of thing. I wouldn't say he's probably just doesn't have the enthusiasm that he used to have. Like, football is mentally draining if you're not enjoying it. And all the games at the minute, all the training sessions, like, if he's not enjoying it, it's easy to see now. And say keepers with mistakes, no coincidence for me why so many keepers are making mistakes at the minute is because of all the games, all the training sessions, all the games coming up, just the mentally challenging side of it that they can't keep up with it because they probably never would have experienced this before.
Yeah, like, it's a big difference, like, say, having a league match every weekend, and then when it gets to the busy period, maybe having a Champions League match in the midweek. But, like, it's a massive change then having a game every 3 days, where then you're having to factor in, a recovery day the day after a game, maybe a day of training, and then the following day then is prep for the next game, or you mightn't even have had those days. Like, how does that take its toll after just months and months of that relentless stuff?
I think it's different. It's different for an outfield player than is a goalkeeper. Like, I think a goalkeeper is mentally more challenging, but an outfield player might be a bit physically more challenging. But I'd rather, if I could choose, I'd rather it be physically more challenging because it's very hard to deal with a tired mind, with being lethargic, as if you're a bit stiff, you can kind of, not saying get on with that, but you might be playing at 80%, 90%, but you still play. As a keeper, if you're off by that 5%, it's a tragedy waiting to happen.
And just going off as well, like you were saying there, like the likes of De Gea, where, for a few years he was considered, undisputedly the best keeper in the league and stuff like that. And, like, obviously we had the likes of Czech over the years as well. Do you have any particular favourites, or who do you think is best in the league at the moment? And, like, why do you think they're head and shoulders above the others?
I like Kasper Schmeichel. I really like Kasper Schmeichel. I think it's just a pity he's whatever 34, I think he is now. it's a pity because in my opinion, he has it all. Like 1v1s, he's so good. Never gets better as near postcard. He's good in the ball. Shot stopping really good. I was at Leicester and Southampton last year. I know I was saying about not being able to hear when you're in England about like the goalkeepers talking, but you could hear him fucking halfway up the stand. Like I think he has it all. Like he's the one. He's so consistent. I feel for him. I know Leicester are a good club, but I feel for him that he's never got to do it at a challenge. I know he won the league with Leicester, but I mean challenging every year Champions League sort of club, like.
Because he could really, like you're saying, like I think he's a brilliant keeper as well. Like, so with that, like his father, had he been at the likes of United, he's definitely of the standard where he could have been in a team challenging for years for a silverware, rather than just happening to be part of an upsurging team.
But then it also comes down to sometimes keepers are good with certain type teams. So if you look at Iker Casillas, fantastic at Real Madrid, went to Porto, and he openly spoke in the interview and said he didn't overly like it. And when asked why didn't he overly like it, he said because he was used to being at Real Madrid where you're not having to make as many saves, but you're always having to be active. He then went to Porto where he was both like switched, and he struggled. And he said he struggled with that. He said when he's at Madrid, the centre half's job was always the head balls from this area to that area. He went to Porto and the manager was telling him to come for crosses. And it's like that with Schmeichel. So good at Leicester. Does well for Denmark. And football and ability, all fantastic. But then would he be able to do that elsewhere? I think he probably would, but I mean in the sense of it'd be open for debate, like.
Yeah. Just on that, and obviously we mentioned that about goalkeepers. Obviously, there almost is I don't want to say there's a pressure, but maybe there is a pressure to play with their feet, to be good with their feet, to try play from the back. Do you think when there's such a focus like that, do you think that's taken away from any other aspects of goalkeeping where other kind of attributes might actually drop off because they're so focused on using their feet that they're not as focused or concentrated on, I don't know, anything in terms of making saves with their hands? Or again, I know we're using De Gea again, but De Gea tends to use his feet an awful lot, and he always has done. Is that down to, do you think, been used to training with using his feet?
I think like in regards to using the feet, ball playing ability wise, yeah, I think goalkeeping's probably harder in the last 5 years than it ever was. Because if I look back at Shay Given, I can't ever remember the time I seen Shay Given pass the ball to a centre back. And especially with this whole thing like centre halves dropping inside the box to receive the ball and play, it's getting even harder for goalkeepers. That's the easy part. It's when the centre half panics, gives it back to you, and you're under pressure. Then you have to be good with the ball at your feet. Regarding De Gea making saves with his feet and blocks with his feet, I don't see the issue with it. Like it's always been encouraged because it was a thing apparently from his very young ages when he broke in, that he was very, very good at, and so it was always coached within him. I'm being totally honest, it's something I'm all about just making the save. Like, if he can make the save, make the save. Like, it's different if you're palming it back out to a striker. It doesn't, and he's scoring. It doesn't really count. But it's at the end of the day, I like to simplify it sometimes and kind of say, right, just make the save. And if that's with his foot, which he's very comfortable with, so be it. It looked bad against, I think it was it Sheffield United, where it looked bad, but that was because he hesitated and he looked like he didn't want to go in for a hard tackle. I think pretty sure Sheffield United, where the ball was swung in and it broke and he kind of went to drop the knee and spread himself with his leg. But yeah, no, if it's working, I don't see the issue. Like.
Just thinking as well, Jay, there, like say for example, like say COVID's finished now and we're out of lockdown and we're actually able to meet people in real life again rather than all these people on Zoom. say you're meeting up with the lads on a Thursday for a game of five-a-side, are you, with all your keeper experience, are you still someone you go in as the keeper,
No.
or are you like not up front? I'm just going to go.
Last one. I told you earlier on. I think I was ahead of goalkeeping because they put me in goal because I was so good with the ball on my feet. So five aside, sit at the back, spray it around with both feet. It's that sort of player. Like I'm like John Terry. Even I'm naturally right footed, but my left it's great as well. But I'm like John Terry is. I like to play on the left hand side. Remember that with Julian Escott when they came into the England team together, and Julian went and John Terry went and had a knock on the door, and he said, "We're going to have an issue here." I think it was Sven or Steve McLaren. I think was the manager. And Steve McLaren said, "What's the issue?" And he said, "Lescott's left footed." Steve goes, "Yeah, it's perfect. You're right footed." No, I don't play on the right hand side. Wouldn't play on the right hand side even though he's a right footed player. Julian Escott didn't play because.
I'm just trying to remember back to some of our days playing with Newbertown, Jay, and if I can remember correctly, you just love pinging the ball with that left foot, a couple of step overs as well, in the small side of games. So no,
I used to. You know what? I got into an obsession when I was younger. I remember someone saying to me, "Lads, Vicente Guaita is after making a save there, and I know the time of night it is. It's goalkeeper porn." To be totally honest with you, but regarding Gary, I got very distracted there. What you're saying, I got an obsession into my head when I was younger. I remember being told you need to be good with both feet, and I can't remember who told me, but I remember them being of high regard, if that makes sense. Like, and they said to me, "I'm not. I can't. It might come to me, but in later in the conversation. But I remember them saying you have to be good using the ball with both feet. You have to be able to use both feet." And I got obsessed with it. And I used to start. I obsess over things when I want to get better at something. I'd be very competitive and work hard. I used to just solely focus on using my left foot then to try and make it as good as my right. And it's. I always say that I'd always use that when I'm coaching now. Why like not asking for both of them to be amazing, but why can't you try use both feet?
Yeah, and I think that goes for any player. Like, you have such a huge advantage over your opposition if you're able to use both feet, because then the defender or the midfielder against you doesn't know which way you're going to turn, doesn't know which foot you're going to use to pass. So you have an advantage straight away. And I was always told as well, obviously improve on your less dominant foot, but also improve with your good foot, make that even better. So I think that kind of goes back to your advice as well to goalkeepers, to any players: hard work, practice, and practice. I know that obviously the saying goes around, practice makes perfect, but for me it's kind of practice makes people better, more so.
Yeah, good. And the key is, for me, it's not about the time you put in; it's about the quality of time you put in. So if you're going to if you're going to, as a keeper, go practice for your kicking, whatever it is, for an hour, that's pointless. Absolutely pointless, because your legs will be wore off you in about half an hour. So why not practice for half an hour and have the quality of half an hour be really, really good, rather than the quality of an hour and be going home frustrated because you couldn't kick at the end. It's about the quality of it for me.
Yeah,
it's good. Practice makes perfect, more so than just practice makes perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Jay, just before we finish up, we have a couple of questions that came in through the Instagram page during the week. So one of the questions was, you kind of might have touched on it earlier on when we started the conversation, but what would you say is your best ever individual performance?
That one I was saying to you, balls away at Dalymount Park, getting man of the match, was a winning 3-0. Obviously, there's a massive rivalry there between the two teams because the whole stadium thing and all that. So yeah, no, that would be probably my best individual performance.
Yeah, and always nice to beat your rivals 3-0 and
Beat
pick
the
up a bit of
rivals,
silverware as well. So, next question is, who is the best player you faced in the League of Ireland?
Geez, you've caught me. Jason Byrne was phenomenal. I remember Jason Byrne came on. To be honest, he only played 25 minutes and he scored twice. I was with Athlone and he was with, it was either UCD or Cabinteely at the time. And he came on and I remember he was one-on-one with me and he done the total, I'd never played against him, and he done the total opposite to what a striker would ever do. And then he was one-on-one with me 12, 15 minutes after that. And he done the total opposite to what a striker would do and what he done the first time. And I remember looking at the video back then. We got the video of the game back, whatever it was, a day or so later. I remember looking at it back and I thought, that's how he was, who he like, and he would have been probably mid-30s at the time. But that's how he was over at Cardiff, let's say, and got his few Ireland caps and that, because he was a proper striker, proper goal scorer, held everything up, and yeah, that's probably like I'm not saying the most, the one I can remember the most, yeah, for wrecking me head in 20 minutes.
It's those moments as well that stick with you, whether it's a moment of genius, a moment of quality, and like you said, he was only on the pitch for 25 minutes, but yet he made such an impression on you, and like you said, it was kind of towards the end of his career as well.
Yeah, he said, to be fair, he scored twice, but he said it was the best keeper he ever played against.
There you go, man. There's a nice compliment, isn't there?
No, I fucking wish. said it was horrendous.
Just two more questions from our Instagram. Obviously the person who asked the question didn't realize you're a Liverpool fan, but Alison or Edison, who would you have in your team?
Alison.
Has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And why?
I just think he's technically better. Edison makes a lot of mistakes he gets away with, in the sense of, like, Alison saves a lot more shots technically in a better way and is technically a lot better. But Edison, because of what he does with the ball at his feet, because of that, you're watching Edison for that. As you look at him positional, you were on about positional wise earlier, Gary, like of positional in the goal. If you actually watch him during games, he gets caught out a terrible lot positionally wise.
That's one of the best things about Alison, isn't it? Like, yeah. like that. You'll have keepers who kind of, like, say, I'd often see it with the likes of Pickford, say, for example. he'll make saves kind of for the camera. Do you know what I mean? Like, he'll big, massive diving saves where you wouldn't very often see Alison do that. But if you look at him closely, he's shuffled over a meter just quicker, so then he doesn't need to be making a big extravagant save.
He made a save. I think it was a week ago. It was from point blank range, 6 yards out. I forget who it was from, but just to his left hand side, and he got two hands and just palmed it away. But like I don't know how he got there so quick. He shifted his feet and just got there so quick. As I was looking and going, Jesus Christ! I would have, like, someone would have done well to even try to get one hand near it. Like, don't get me wrong, Ederson's quality, but it comes down to the difference in teams, like, and the difference in the way they play. Ederson's so much better at receiving the ball and moving the ball, as Alison, as you can see against who was it, Leicester, he's good in the ball, but he's not as good as Edison. So that's Alison's the answer to that question.
That's fair enough. You've justified your answer with a non-biased perspective. Just one last one from Instagram. Obviously you see goalkeepers wearing all sorts of numbers. Would you have been a goalkeeper that would have worn number 1? Would you have been a goalkeeper that would have worn number 13? Or would you have been a goalkeeper like Rua Patricio at Wolves wearing 11 or an outfield number?
I tended to always lean towards 23 because I was born on the 13th of the 10th. So the kit man up north wasn't really having it. Like, up there, they're worse in Ireland. Like, they won't let anyone wear 13. Like, their squad number literally goes 1 to 12 and 14 to 18 or whatever, 14 to 19. Or obviously squad numbers. So I wanted 13 because I was born on 13 and he wasn't having it, so I put the two of them together then. So that stuck. Then I wore 13 at Shells, or I wore 23 at Shells as well. Then, and I think I wore it with Athlone as well. So yeah, 23 is the one that kind of I like.
David Beckham.
Yeah, just the same passing ability, I guess.
Dave, any more questions that you can think of before we finish up?
No, I was just thinking, like, I was having a look and see was there any more in the group. Yeah. Was like I was thinking, say, obviously you started off young when you decide to be a keeper. Like, was there any particular keeper at the time that you had as an inspiration to decide to be a keeper? Obviously Shay Given was huge in Ireland, like, but
I liked Casillas, to be fair. Yeah, when I was younger, I really liked Casillas. I think that was some of the thing that got me using my left foot. Was Casillas he was different than I'd ever seen. Like, obviously, because I'm gonna sound really old now, but like you weren't watching much Spanish league as you were watching your match of the day on a Saturday night. So you were seeing English keepers, majority of them were right footed and not being footballers, just being out and out keepers. And then when La Liga, when we finally got Sky Sports in or whatever, La Liga beyond that. So I remember seeing Casillas and just his kind of having his left foot, and that's what made me practice my left to try improve that, to try getting him right. So probably Casillas. I honest to God, like that's probably Joe Hart. Oh, I love Joe Hart when he burst onto the scene. Remember his debut for Birmingham. Oh no, was it for Birmingham? No, his debut for, who did he make his debut for? I think it was against Birmingham.
Yeah.
He was on loan.
Yeah, he was. Correct. Yeah, that's the one. He was on loan at Birmingham. I think it could have been against Spurs, and it was unbelievable. Like, it was genuinely. I remember seeing him. It was unbelievable. Like, and then his Man City debut as well, where he got the nod ahead of Shay Given. That was against Spurs, I think. And he was brilliant as well. I used to love him. Like, he was the one, like, after Casillas would have been kind of earlier phase, and then it would have been Joe Hart.
Fantastic. Jay, we can't thank you enough for your time, your honesty, your insights to pretty much the life of a goalkeeper, and just giving us fans the perspective of how a goalkeeper thinks and how a goalkeeper deals with certain situations that we probably don't really appreciate. So I definitely learned a lot. I'm sure O'Hara's learned a lot as well, and anyone that's going to be listening back to this podcast will get a big insight into everything to do with a goalkeeper. So thank you very much for your time, Jay. And again, we hope to have you on the podcast at some stage in the future. But again, thanks very much for
Yeah, no,
but
it's been really enjoyable to come on and have a chat with you both, and it's been good with everything going on. And the last thing I want to finish on is, it's a tough time for everyone at the minute, obviously, with what's going on in the world, and men especially. Look, we're always told we're meant to be tough. I, for one, have had my problems with mental health. And I'd say to anyone that might listen to this tonight, they might look and go, Jesus, he messes, he jokes, he gets on that way. That's me here, right? That's grand. But there's still problems away from that. And I'd always encourage men to, if they can take one thing out, even the podcast tonight, don't be afraid to speak up to someone. There's always someone there who will talk to you. There's always someone there who will listen. So that's one thing I would really encourage. And like that, I'm on social media. If anyone ever wants to send a text or whatever, coffee, chat over Zoom, whatever it is, just never hesitate. And yeah, it's been fucking great tonight. Really enjoyed it, gents.
Yeah, no, that's the best message we can finish on. Times are tough out there, but there's always people out there that are happy to support everyone through these tough times. Great way to end the podcast. Cheers, Jamie. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Thanks,